past several winters have been tough on the state's highways, especially in the northern section of the state. This, coupled with not nearly enough money to maintain the roads, has caused a critical situation to arise. Dr. Rex Rayner, the state highway director, says at the present, the outlook for the state road system is grim.
I would say, generally speaking, the conditions of the roads depend on what section of the country we're in. The north part of our state, we find that in the winter of 1976-77, the roads suffered more than they have in the previous few years, while in some regions of the state, we find that our coal hauling operations have damaged the roads. So in general, I would say that the roads are deteriorating faster than we can keep up with the repair of them.
Rayner says they are currently surveying the conditions in all road districts of the state, and they're calculating the cost of repair and maintenance in these areas.
Given the background that the governor has in this aspect of state government and your background, what way do you think that you will attack the problem of getting Alabama's roads in shape?
Well, we're simply going to take the results of these studies that we're making and then pyramid them up like this, and depending on what appropriation we have, we'll just simply, if we have this much money, we'll slice off and you get everything above. If I have more money, slice off and take what's up. The main thing that we want to do is to factually present to the legislature and to the governor just where we are. And once these facts are known, we think that they'll be in a better position to make the decisions that have to be made about how much money the taxpayers can stand. It's just that simple.
According to Rayner, the state of Alabama is spending about $3,500 a mile for maintenance, compared to Florida, where about $9,300 a mile is spent. He says the state highway department needs $103 million right now to repair the roads in the state, but he said since it would be impossible to repair all of them at once, the actual cost would be even higher. Generally, he says the road conditions in the northern section of the state are worse because up there they have more ice and snow and coal truck traffic. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
Senator Heflin, what have you seen in your first month or so in office in Washington?
Well, I'm sort of frustrated and about what has gone on. They hadn't really done anything. It seems to me that they could have got the machinery of the legislative body cranked up better than they have. It's frustrating and sometimes disillusioning. Really, we hadn't even had a vote yet. We hadn't even answered other than one roll call that we have answered. I've come out of the courts, and the courts work. And they generally, I think they need a good court administrator up there to get them started and moving. But I suppose they send up trial balloons. They've got all sorts of things. Of course, we've been meeting committees. We've had practically every department and agency of the government come by to brief us on their particular activity. All of these are important. But from the floor of the Senate, they just hadn't done anything, and it seems to me that they could get cranked up and moving a lot faster and be much more efficient than they are at the present time.
Why do you think that this is this way?
Well, I suppose it's because they've been doing it this way. What happens towards the end of Congress, they'll work night and day and have long sessions and things of this sort. But it just seems to me that things could move a lot more efficiently and much more effectively than they are in this beginning. But again, I'm a freshman and I'm just looking at it, but maybe in a few years, maybe I can get them to get cranked up a little better, maybe hopefully next year.
In the first weeks you have been in Washington, you've experienced some rather unusual winter weather and a farmer's demonstration. What were your thoughts about these?
Well, I think the farmers have a real problem and they're in a real plight. The press hasn't given the farmers, I don't think, the type of coverage that they should have had there. If the Iranian students were protesting, or if the supporters of Taiwan were there protesting, or the hippies protesting, I think they've been given better treatment.
Competency testing was a major topic during the workshops held throughout the day as part of the Project Mathematics Conference. One of the main speakers of the day was the State Department of Education's math specialist working on competency testing for students. Dr. Paul Wiley said he was attending the conference to gather insights from these teachers about the mathematics segment of competency testing.
So it's an opportunity for us to share with them, but at the same time for them to ask us questions and to offer suggestions for the process.
Just yesterday, the Competency Testing Committee concluded a two-day working session trying to formulate a competency test. The test will be tried out in 7 pilot schools across the state, one of them in Etowah County. Today, that county's assistant school superintendent says his teachers believe in the concept of competency testing.
And they're very excited about it, primarily because I think this will give them a chance to demonstrate that they have done an excellent job in teaching students the basic skills.
How do your students feel about competency tests? Are they scared?
No, not really. We've been using our own competency test for a number of years, and students are very used to this type of thing, so it's not a big thing for them.
A competency test for students is still in the planning stages and won't be tested until later this school year or the next. Glenda Webb, WSFA TV News.
The theft of the diamond rings took place about 6:20 Saturday night in the jewelry department of the Pizitz department store in the Eastdale Mall. The manager of the jewelry department, Barbara James, says the suspect, a black male in his early 30s, leaned over the counter, grabbed the 2 rings, and fled. A store employee pursued, and a few minutes later the man was caught by police near the Northeastern Bypass Viaduct over Wares Ferry Road. However, the rings were not to be found. Police identify the man as Ronald Tillman of Tennessee. Detectives say an unidentified woman was supposedly involved in the theft, but she hasn't been seen either. Tillman reportedly admitted taking the rings. The investigation and the search for the $13,000 diamond rings continues. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News.
The Southeast Alabama Health Systems Agency makes it its job to gather data on health statistics and health planning information. One of its methods for determining problems is meetings with its health officials in the 17-county area covered by the SAHSA. During the past several months, the SAHSA has been holding hearings in each of the counties, talking to the people about what they consider the utmost problem. Top on their list? Expanded transportation services for those in need.
Now, these are the problems as the people perceive them. We really don't have a quantitative description of the extent of the problem or what groups indeed lack transportation. We have a feeling that low income, the physically handicapped, the blind, and the aging certainly have a problem in this regard. We really don't have quantitative bounds on the problem.
That's Robert Carlisle, Director of Data Management and Coordination for the Health Systems Agency. Already underway in the area are a number of transportation services for those in need, such as the Head Start buses, which carry kids of preschool age, and there are the buses for the elderly who are over 60. Local buses also provide reduced rates for the elderly, as do taxi cabs. The problem, however, could appear to be within the range of preschool to elderly, those in between. However, Carlisle points out that they have only surfaced the problem so far. The exact pinpointed problem has not been made, and that could take some time.
I think it's a multifaceted problem, and certainly will have a multifaceted solution.
Carlisle says the southeastern section of this state suffers from the highest infant mortality rate over any other section of the country, and some of it could be attributable to the parents' lack of getting kids to the doctor on a regular basis. But again, Carlisle reminds us that before anything can be done, the problem must be narrowed down.
Well, I would suggest, and of course this transportation is not the concern of the HSA per se. We are concerned in the lack of transportation insofar as it affects accessibility to medical services. It really is the responsibility of the regional planning and development commissions, of which there are 4 in our area, and they certainly are tackling the problem. But I think one thing we have to do is to bound the extent of the problem and try to get some quantitative feel for what the number of people are that lacks transportation, then we should look at what resources are currently available.
Because the problem has been surfaced, officials feel step one has been accomplished. Now it's up to the medical facilities, local, county, state governments, civic clubs, private organizations, and anyone else to pitch in. Carlisle says the most common form of transportation now is the private automobile, and Carlisle suggests a little deeper neighborly love for those in need as one cure. Also, the utilization of school buses who sit idle from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., a greater utilization of federal funding to finance these moves, and the cooperation of all involved.
There certainly is no easy, apparent solution to it. I think that there are many solutions, and many persons and agencies have to be involved in a solution.
Carlisle also says that ignorance is a big factor in the transportation problem, and perhaps that's why it's placed second on the list of high-priority needs.
You would be surprised at the number of physicians and nurses at these various meetings who indicated that they have expectant mothers who come into their office for the first time when they are in labor.
Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
We're playing new games, which is a concept of play in which we're accepting the players and the environment that we're in as is, and we're regenerating ourselves by playing.
Adults and children.
Adults and children. Our purpose is this morning to get the adults to start playing together, and hopefully they'll put themselves in a creative and playful space so that they can get together with the children and learn how to play with them. So many times adults forget that as big people that they too can play. Some games will be completely new, some games will be old versions of games that they've already played. In new games, it's not what you play but how you play. It's an attitude toward play, and winning isn't everything. We will be showing you here a game called Sit on My Knees Please, or the lap game. Sit on my knees, please.
A sampling of various downtown stores indicates that the $2 bill is a rarely seen federal note. Nobody really knows the reason behind its unpopularity, but most say that it's a confusing piece of money. Besides, there's no room for it in the cash register drawer. From time to time, the Federal Reserve banks have called local banks to inquire about their scarcity of orders. A bank here in Montgomery says they still have $26,000 worth of the $40,000 original order.
Most of our businesses deposit what they take in through their business back through us. We have a commercial teller that takes in most of the big businesses in town, and they deposit almost every one that they bring back in.
Well, do you have one particular branch that maybe uses more of the bills than another branch?
We have a branch located on Maxwell Air Force Base, and they order average about $600 every 2 or 3 months, $600 worth every 2 or 3 months. And I think they may be required, the businesses out there may be required to use them because it's a government facility.
Well, do you have any special orders from, say, any customers or any individuals?
Now, Del Champ's grocery stores are the only businesses that I know of that orders them regularly. They order 200 every 3 or 4 months, something like that. They don't know, nobody orders too many.
Well, in your opinion, why are they so unpopular?
I guess it's just because they're hard to make change, and most of the department stores' money drawers are set up for the 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s, and they stick the 2s in there, and they're just inconvenient for them, and most everybody counts back from the amount of purchase to the dollar amount that you gave them, and when you're used to counting 1, 2, 3, and you have to switch to 2, 4, 6, it's just inconvenient.
Yeah. Well, do you find that people give the bills back to the tellers from time to time?
You know, most of our tellers, if they give people $2 bills and change, they'll give them back to them and ask for ones. So most people just don't seem to really like them.
Now, what about a collector's item? Have you heard any rumors of that?
Well, the value of a $2 bill probably went down because the original ones were valuable, but when they come out with the new ones, I'm pretty sure that probably decreased their value. We have a few collectors in town that come down here and ask our tellers for old money, but to my knowledge, nobody's really been asking for $2 bills since the new ones came out.
It's not known if the bills will become popular later on. Some believe they're bad luck and just want to avoid them altogether, while others would keep them, but only for a very short time. Janet May, WSFA TV News.
In the past 10 years, nearly 2,000 people have died in fires in Alabama. It's an astounding figure that has caused alarm in the hearts of fire officials within the state. The man responsible for fire safety inspection and ultimately fire fatality inspection is Roy Thornell. He's the state's fire marshal. Thornell says the worst months for fire fatalities are December, January, and February. Over the past 10 years, an average of 188 people die annually. The breakdown of the worst months is as follows. December 1977, 17 people. The same figure for December of 1978. There are no figures for this coming December. January, the worst month, tallies up like this. 43 fire deaths in 1977, 36 in 1978, and 33 in the month that just ended. For the February tallies, 21 in 1977, 36 in 78, and 15 to date this month. Thornell says there are several contributing factors to the high fire fatality rate.
A number of fires are caused by open-faced heaters being placed too close, or combustible materials moved too close to open-faced heaters. And this is the cause or ignition point of the fire.
Additionally, Thornell says most fires happen when people are least prepared.
The most common cause of fire fatalities are that the people are either asleep or trapped when their home burns.
As a sideline survey, Thornell says their numbers show a tremendously high figure for youth fatalities. The highest numbers are for children under the age of 5. In 1977, 33 children under the age of 5 were killed. In 1978, 55. And so far this year, 11. Why are these figures so high?
Well, we know in many instances the children are left unattended. In some instances, the children are located in the houses, in rooms where adult people cannot effectively rescue these children.
Thornell is also quick to point out that a lack of pre-planning is responsible for the deaths. Thornell says every family should and must have a fire escape route from every room in the home. As another area of survey investigation, Thornell says most fire fatalities occur in homes not equipped with early warning devices, smoke alarms.
Out of our files of this year, we have 34 fatal fires with 48 fatalities and 20 non-fatal injuries. All of these people died in dwelling houses and occupancies which were not protected by early warning devices, with the exception of one fatal fire which occurred in an occupancy which is unknown to us at this time.
So you're not sure if there was one in there or not?
No, sir, we're not sure.
How much percentage-wise, how much difference would there have been in the number of fire fatalities had all of these dwellings had early warning devices? What's the guess?
We would save approximately 75–80%, possibly higher.
Thornell's numbers also show fires drawing socioeconomic lines.
We are looking at two areas of high-cost housing. According to our evaluation of the situation there, it appears that fire fatalities are connected to some degree with economic.
So the lower the economy, the greater the possibility of a fire fatality?
Surely.
Thornell says that a code passed April 15, 1976 requires every new dwelling to have built in it an early warning device. At the same time, Thornell says he hasn't got the people to enforce that regulation. As to the fire inspecting officials in each community,
to my knowledge, in over 22 years, there is not available to the fire services from a state level of enforcement a school which teaches code enforcement. So you would have to gather or assume from that the enforcement of fire codes in Alabama is not adequate.
What else is
People
needed?
charged with the responsibility of enforcing fire codes in many instances does not know the fire code.
Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
It's business as usual in the offices of Governor Bob James. Most of the rest of the Capitol complex is deserted. The governor's staff, including aides, assistants, and of course secretaries, are, according to the governor, catching up on their work.
What is the idea behind this working holiday?
No real idea. It was just an opportunity to catch up. Some of us needed to catch up on paperwork, and good time to do that.
Do you plan any more of these, maybe?
Well, it just depends on what the situation is. No idea. Didn't think anything about it. I'm behind, and I think some of our other folks are behind, and it just afforded a few hours to get caught up.
Do you think the employees minded?
No, I don't think so. They wanted to get caught up, and I don't think there's any problem there at all.
Do you hope some of the other departments will follow suit if you ever do it again?
Well, we're not trying to set an example, and I can't judge the workload in the other departments, but as far as my office, the governor's office, we were just flat behind and trying to get caught up and get current with the board.
The governor was quite busy himself, making frequent visits to the offices directly below his in the basement of the Capitol building. Another indication of just who is working today was evident by the parking. This large parking area to the rear of the Capitol was practically empty, while behind the Capitol, on the north end, the cars belonging to the governor and his staff were lined up in their usual parking spaces. Some offices in the State Administrative Office building were also occupied. Gary Cooper, the Director of Pensions and Security, says his office, as well as food stamp offices, will be open. He says there have been so many food stamp applications recently that his staff must utilize a holiday to do some catch-up work.
Today is indeed a nice day to take a holiday, and most state employees are taking advantage of the Washington's birthday celebration. And for those of us who do have to work, it makes getting a parking place a lot easier around Capitol Hill. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
Well, I don't know how thin they are. I think Adams and Scott are pretty good, and Leroy Russell came in the other night to help them, and I think that's been our problem somewhat. We've had a hard time playing catch-up basketball with the great quickness in the guards in the Southeastern Conference, but our team has played extremely hard all year, and we've been in every game. What we really need to do is to try to get our confidence to the point where we can put somebody away in the last 5 minutes of a game. We've had some really outstanding play, but we've lost so many close games. It's hurt our confidence. But I really have a lot of confidence in this team. We have a lot of character, and we play hard, so anything could really happen tonight.
Do you have to do something with Reginald King, or you just go ahead and let him get his score?
Well, Reginald King, only got 11 points against us in Gainesville, so that goes to show you what well-balanced the Alabama team is. He's not a selfish player. They're a very unselfish team. They're well-disciplined, and they play hard, and they play to win, and that's why they create problems, because you have to be concerned about their whole team.
While Sheriff William Evans was enjoying festivities after his swearing in last week, attorneys for the plaintiffs were researching the law in an effort to put the issue back before federal judge Robert Varner, who ruled that there were some irregularities, but not enough to declare that Evans won the election due to vote fraud. Attorney Ray Acton, who represents the defeated candidate for sheriff, Veston Peters, says a new legal step is in the making and that it will ask Judge Varner to revise his original order in the matter.
The next logical step would be to file either for an amended judgment or for a new trial.
When will any papers be filed toward this end?
Well, under the rules that govern these matters, one must do that within 10 days after the judgment was entered.
Okay, is there any reason to believe that there will be an appeal in the future, or does this all depend on what happens after you file for an amended judgment?
Well, the best thing that could happen from the standpoint of my clients would be to get some relief from the hands of the district court where the matter is resting at this time. And it would be inappropriate to talk about an appeal until one has exhausted their remedies before the district court.
That motion for a revised order in this case is expected to be filed 3 days from now here at Federal District Court. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
What looks like a phenomenal job to the untrained eye is described only as a big assignment by a spokesman for Offshore Incorporated. Al Atchison said this collapse is the second such accident they've handled in Alabama. The first was a train bridge collapse in Jasper. But before the crew can begin lifting the cars from underwater, they must first construct about 30 tons of support beneath the bridge span.
We're putting down these extra piers to support the bridge, which takes some time to do. Another 2-3 days probably to go ahead and see the piers up, and then we may start supporting the bridge. Then after that, then maybe we can go after some of the cars for the railroad.
Well, have you run into any problems so far?
Yes, a lot of swift water and getting equipment moved around in this cold weather, and that's slowed us down. The rain.
From the looks of things, do you think you'll be able to get the cars out?
Well, yes, that's a foregone conclusion. We're going to get the cars out. But it just takes time to support the rest of the structure until we can go ahead and get the cars out.
You say it's going to take about, what, 2 or 3 days?
I'd say 2 or 3 days before we get the structure supported enough so that maybe we can go after the cars. That's if the weather holds and that.
Big assignments are not new to Offshore Incorporated. Last year, they raised the sunken 727 out of the Gulf in Pensacola, and in 1975, they lifted the Ingalls launch platform in Mississippi. Hopefully, the preliminary work will be completed within 2 or 3 days, and if Gulf Central gives the okay, the cars should be out of the water within a week. From the Alabama River, Janet May, WSFA TV News.